And welcome back, everybody. In 2020, a man named Tim Bliefnick appeared on an episode of Family Feud. And when asked what the biggest mistake was on his wedding night, his response was, saying I do.
In the heart of Quincy, Illinois, nestled in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a darkness lurked behind closed doors. A devoted mother of 3, a beloved nurse, and a cherished friend, Becky Bliefnick seemed to have a life many would love to have. But beneath the surface, a storm was forming. Becky's life was brutally ended in a way that no one could have imagined. Her home, once a sanctuary, became the scene of a nightmare. She was found lying on the cold bathroom floor, having been shot 14 times. The question everyone is asking, why? This is the tragic story of Becky Bliefnick, a mother of 3 who was brutally gunned down in her own home. The case of Becky Bliefnick, a mother of 3 who was brutally gunned down in her own home, has not only shocked the quiet community of Quincy, Illinois, but has also ignited a crucial discussion about the systemic failures in addressing domestic violence, particularly emotional and psychological abuse. On a fateful afternoon earlier this year, Becky was discovered dead, lying on her bathroom floor after her bedroom door had been forcefully kicked open. She had been shot 14 times, a brutal end to a life marked by escalating fear and threats. Becky's estranged husband, Tim Bliefnick, a former college football star and well-known local salesman who had once appeared on the television show Family Feud and infamously described marriage as the biggest mistake one could make, was convicted of her murder in May. In August, he was sentenced to life in prison for the premeditated killing that took place on February 23, 2023. The trial revealed a chilling portrait of a man who meticulously planned and executed the murder, driven by anger and a desire to control. In the years leading up to her death, Becky had sought protection from the court, filing for an emergency restraining order against Tim, citing abuse and harassment. However, her pleas were dismissed by the court, a decision that her family and experts attribute to deep-rooted biases within the legal system. Manipulation and control. Tim and Becky married in 2009, but by the time Tim filed a petition for a protection order on September 1, 2021, they were separated and he'd filed for divorce. Becky's sister, Sarah Riley, pointed out that the court's failure to take her seriously was influenced by the ongoing divorce proceedings and the fact that Tim had also filed a restraining order against her, which was similarly denied. This mutual filing led the court to perceive their actions as mere gamesmanship rather than genuine cries for help. "Nobody believed her because you can't see emotional abuse," Riley said. "You can't see what happens behind closed doors. You can't see manipulation." Domestic violence experts and prosecutors have emphasized this case as an excellent example of the legal system's shortcomings in handling non-physical forms of abuse. Josh Jones, an associate state's attorney for Adams County, highlighted the structural inadequacy following which verbal and emotional abuse are not treated with the same gravity as physical abuse. The situation for victims like Becky is made more difficult by the near difficulty of getting emergency protection orders during contentious divorces, as highlighted by Laura Keck, another prosecutor who specializes in sex crimes. Becky made serious and detailed accusations against Tim. She related instances in which Tim would break into her house without her knowledge and use their kids as an excuse. In one particularly disturbing story, Tim threatened to throw away the family pet because Becky didn't follow his rigid exercise regimen, and in another, he chopped down her favorite tree as a kind of punishment. When Becky told Tim she didn't feel safe around him and wanted to sleep with one of their children, she wrote, "He threw her bedding into the basement." Although these acts may not have seemed significant to outsiders, they were a part of a larger pattern of control and manipulation, a type of psychological abuse that frequently goes unrecognized and untreated. Sarah Riley recounted a chilling message from Becky in September 2021, where she expressed fear for her life and her children's safety, a fear that intensified after hearing about a colleague who had been killed by an estranged partner. She said that she was fearful of Tim, Riley recalled, adding that Becky had recently learned of a colleague who had been killed by an estranged partner. "This was the first time it really registered with her that she or her children could be in danger," Riley said. This fear, however, was not enough to convince the court to grant her the necessary protection, highlighting the significant gap between the lived experiences of domestic violence victims and the legal standards required for intervention. Beyond physical violence, The Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence's CEO and president, Vicky Smith, criticized the court for rejecting Becky's petition, pointing out that actions such as Tim's breaking into Becky's house without permission should have raised red flags. These behaviors are intended to retain power and inspire fear, two important markers of abusive relationships that frequently lead to physical violence. Smith's remarks highlight the need for a deeper understanding of domestic abuse in the legal system, where it is still assumed that abuse has to be physical in order to be given serious consideration. The case took an even darker turn with allegations against Tim's father. Becky filed a restraining order against him, accusing him of sexually assaulting several family members. This accusation added another layer of complexity and danger to her situation. Tim's dismissal of these allegations and his threat to Becky if she exposed his father further isolated her. This chilling dynamic was indicative of the broader control and manipulation Becky faced. The allegations against Tim's father became a central issue in the divorce proceedings, with the potential for significant repercussions on custody arrangements. The imminent court hearing, where these serious allegations would be addressed, was posited by prosecutors as a critical factor in motivating Tim to murder Becky. They argued that Tim feared the exposure and legal consequences that the hearing could bring, which would disrupt his life and potentially endanger his custody of their children. Tim's lawyer, Casey Schnack, dismissed the prosecutor's narrative, arguing that the case was built on a compelling story rather than solid evidence. She suggested that the acrimony between Tim and Becky was typical of many divorces, downplaying the severity of the abuse allegations. This perspective, however, starkly contrasts with the overwhelming evidence presented during the trial, including the meticulous planning and execution of Becky's murder. On August 11th, 3 months after the jury found Tim guilty of first-degree murder, the judge sentenced him to life in prison. In a scathing rebuke, the judge highlighted the premeditation involved in the crime, stating, "Mr. Bliefnick, you researched this murder, you planned this murder, you practiced this murder, you broke into her house and you shot her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times." This sentence not only marked the end of a harrowing legal journey but also underscored the brutality and cold calculation behind Becky's death. The shocking truth behind Becky Bliefnick's murder is a poignant reminder of the urgent need for reform in how the legal system handles domestic violence cases. It calls for a deeper understanding of the various forms of abuse, better training for judges and law enforcement, and more robust measures to protect victims. Becky's murder serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for reform in how the legal system handles domestic violence. Her death underscores the importance of taking all forms of abuse seriously and ensuring that victims receive the protection they desperately need. As we remember Becky Bliefnick, let her story be a catalyst for change. We must advocate for better training for judges and law enforcement, and for a legal system that truly understands and addresses the complexities of domestic abuse. Thank you for watching. If you found this story impactful, please like, subscribe to our channel, Cute Crime, and share this video. Let's work together to ensure no other family has to endure such a tragedy.